Hey, Stoney here with another game of Mechabellum, and in this game you're gonna watch two standard or defensive board masters going at it with a final twist in the last round. So let's go. At the bottom here we have Zem playing as a cost control specialist, and he's up against Odyssey playing as a saber-tooth specialist. Zemp is a very strong defensive player. I remember back when we had the Dev versus Pro tournament, he was the champion, and also in the finals versus Steel Sing, another extremely solid defensive players. Um, when you're playing defensive game, a lot of it comes down to the nuance of what comes first, right? So where in the aggro game is always about the tower, it's about the speed, it's about distracting your opponents. But in the defensive game, it's about counting that seconds where your bangs walk just in front of your carry units and tank that shot, or that second where your opponent's chaff chain breaks and then your melting point gets a lock on. So Zemp is very good at spotting those tiny little nuances. Odyssey is a up and coming player. I've actually casted a lot of his games back when he was hovering around the 1800 mark, but now he's climbing well above the 2000 mark. And in the last 2 weeks, I think he's been taking some really big names down from the tournaments. All right, so skip for both sides. That's interesting because I thought the Mustang car was interesting in standard. It gives you such a higher quality chaff units in the later rounds. For 150, you get a pack of Mustangs. That can also clear a whole lot of your opponent's board. I thought I will be pretty good into a standard, but I suppose both players just wants to skip that and take that 50 to buy more Stonecallers. That makes sense. Now looking at the board here, I think this is just a classic standard setup. You have crawlers behind the tower, fans behind the crawlers, and then you have the storm crawlers a little bit in front of the tower. The benefit of this sort of setup is that your fans will eventually catch up in front of the storm crawlers as the chaff line are disappearing, which means that the first shot from this marksman, if the chaff isn't there anymore, is probably going to get into these fans, giving the storm crawlers even more time to destroy your opponent's units. So far, it looks like a pretty good game here for Odyssey. He still has a considerable amount of army left over, and of course, the marksmen are going to help a lot in picking up these Stonecallers in the later part of the round. All right, first unit drop. Triple Rhino is a very powerful and also a very interesting type of unit drop. You can use them for flanking. You can put them all together and do a mobile beacon and whirlwind. There's a lot of possibilities with Triple Rhino. Farseer is a very solid standard play. So if you really enjoy your standard play and just need some additional late support, you can definitely take the Farseer. I think in this case, both players probably take the Farseer because of the existence of Phantom Rays. The Rhinos right now is pretty strong, I think, for Odyssey, because for Zemp, there's not a lot of high damage units. So taking out Farseer kind of plugs a hole with the Rhino. One good thing about the Farseer is that in this type of board, it serves multiple roles, right? In the mid, so early round, it will use Farseer for chapter. But in the mid round, they can also deal with these medium-sized units like sledgehammers. And then in the late round, a Farseer can actually walk up to the Stormcaller, tanking the shots and slowly getting rid of these final units. Last round, we saw that the reason that the Odyssey was able to win a little bit earlier was because of these three marksmen. It was picking up the sledgehammers a little faster than the Zemp. So we'll see if that changes. Now, one thing I am a little concerned about Zem's board at this level, at this round, is just there aren't a lot of chaff clear. There's decent chap clear at the beginning, but when you look at the late round chap clear, all there is just there's 3 packs of bangs and a single farseer. So what that means is that Odyssey can fully exploit a final late arriving chap by just having late arriving fans of his own, right? Alright, farseer doing work, and here you get to see the power of these late arriving fans enjoying a lot of firepower. But I don't think it's going to be enough, at least not on the right hand side. On the left hand side, the farseer is doing work, and that's what I was talking about, right? The farseer is tanky enough to withstand an entire volley from the stonecallers and then still able to dish out the damage. It's going to be an excellent tower timing here, I think. Yep. The stonecaller still intact. Oh, able to take down that saber-tooth and potentially now the farseer as well. Oh, this is an excellent tower timing. All right, a set of cards. I think the only one that jumps at me is the Wasp Swarm. Elite Wasp in standard is just, you can't get too much value out of it. You want your Wasp to be more of a chaff than carry units in the later rounds. ER War Factory is interesting. It has the attack reduced by 20%, but you can use it as a very long range artillery support. All right, it's going to be Wasp here for Mr. Zemp, and it's going to be a skip for Odyssey. Tanks get leveled, which means they are now able to withstand more shots here from the Stonecallers. Scorpions went down, specifically to deal with the tanks and also the Sabertooth, but I think the Farseer is also included on the hit list. Now, one interesting history with Zemp's game with Scorpion was that about 2 months ago, there was a couple games that I've casted on my channel with these sort of fire and acid combination. So it is fire callers and acid siege scorpions and just the infinite amount of fangs. And what it does is it keeps your opponent so tied up for so long that your scorpion and Stonecaller just kills everything else. Okay, Scorpion's coming in. Alright, Chav is done. Now we're moving on to the medium-sized units. This level 2 Sabertooth is very problematic. It's taking so many shots from the Scorpion. And it may not actually bring it down. Nope. The Scorpion died before it was able to get his job done. Alright, getting on to the Marksman. The Farseer continues to provide value on both sides. But I think Zemp might want to sell the Farseer in maybe next round. It is a big chunk of money. A level 2 Farseer can get you 450. Incendiary is probably the card that both players are going to pick. There is a case to be made with the rank 5 crawlers. So in this case, right, we already have enough of a chat line to deal with, you know, whatever problem that they're throwing at us. Because this is a long range fight, sometimes having some late arriving crawler or just having the option to have level 5 crawlers in the very end, or even just doing some flanking with level 5 crawlers, just having that option could be very good. Because for Zemp, he doesn't really need any more crawlers as a chaff. I think what he will continue to put in is probably just going to be more fans. Odyssey. Not taking fire, taking the advanced power system, making everything move a little bit faster. And here's the siege on the Scorpion. So now we're getting into a very long range battle with the siege and of course the Stormcallers. Both Farseer are still on the board. This one is now level 3. The unfortunate part about Siege Scorpion is that they do not one-shot sledgehammers. So they're wasting precious damage on these sledgehammers. Alright, a very decent round here for Zemp, and his build is coming online. Now, if I were Odyssey, I think I should be a little scared at this point, because the longer this game goes, the better these units are going to become, and that's before a fire caller is even chosen here. EM is added. Oil is being added, so I suspect that this is the round that fire comes in. Underground is being picked up proactively. So I think Odyssey must have seen my video on Zemp on the fire and acid. So you're 100% expecting this sort of thing to happen. No fire on this round yet, just the oil to slow things down. Oil is very powerful already into Stormcallers, just because when units slow down, they tend to clump a little bit more. The EM actually was an excellent spell, just disabling these two Scorpions, forcing them to walk up to the army here. But now with the siege disable, getting the siege back on just before he's able to engage with the sledges. That was really lucky. I was gonna say, like, without siege, the Scorpions can actually one-shot the sledgehammers, but they just got turned back on right before they engage. And what that means is that Odyssey is going to take another round despite the oil. Very strong comp here. Alright, we got round 7. We got unit drops here. Very fast pickup here for both players. Double Rhino for Zemp, and then the Sandworm from Odyssey. So both players are trying to punch a hole into the opponent's board. The Rhinos themselves, they're a bit more exposed than the Sandworm because they do not burrow on the ground, so they can be targeted as they're running towards the enemy. With multiple Sabertooth already on the field, I think that could be a slightly dangerous job for these Rhinos. And then for Odyssey, it's going to be 2 Sandworms on the side. Nope, it's going to be an aggro Sandworm to a total number of 4 altogether, possibly with a mobile beacon into the tower. It's going to be Replicate, and here's the mobile beacon. And this is a very deadly tempo move, because when your opponent is playing standard, something like this, he's not going to have enough units to deal with an additional 1,200 supply worth of resource with a mobile beacon into the tower, especially if these are like Sandworms with Replicate. So what that means is if these 4 Sandworms survive along with some of the other units because of the tower capture, Odyssey can actually one-punch KO Zemp out of this game. I was fully expecting them to try something similar with the double Rhino on the same side with Whirlwind and just mobile beacon into Odyssey's board, but ultimately he decided to sell one of his Rhino and just continue to build on this long range board. Still no fire from the Stormcallers, but so no fire, no asset. I think it's just he thinks that there's enough damage out already. And on the right, the Sandworms have no answer. The Siege Scorpions do not actually have enough DPS to deal with the Sandworm. And here goes the tower. And I think we still have multiple sandworms left over. Yep, all 4 of them are still alive. And just like that, Odyssey takes Zemp out of the game. So very interesting game so far. I think from round 1 to round 6, it's just be a pretty standard game with a lot of nuances with Stonecallers and the order of these fangs. The final round really shook things up a little bit. I think Odyssey seized the opportunity with the double sandworm and adding 2 more with Replicate, knowing that Zemp is no way can defend this type of aggression, and was able to deal a massive amount of damage. So kudos to Odyssey. All right. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, here's another one for you. And I will see you on the next one.
Prepare your tactics. Mechabellum's calling. Deploy your fortress. The battlefield's alive with swarms.